Hello viewers, Super GT here. Welcome to one of my toughest sessions I've ever had in Gran Turismo Sport. And that is because we've headed to Hash Brown Raceway. Oh yes, who loves a bit of oval racing? Well, let me tell you, over the course of this race, I do appreciate the precision required in oval racing, and it's not something that you really do all that often in this game, or in any game. I've really not been much of an oval racer. So when this comes up, it always does throw a spanner into the works. This is very much a different race. It really is very, very different. Now this is qualifying. See, everyone wants to back off. No one wants to be at the front of the queue. And so what you'll see over the course of these qualifying sessions is, well, it's an absolute mess of people jostling for space. And that's exactly what we're going to try and do here. We're going to settle in somewhere towards the middle / back of the pack, in behind this Lamborghini here. Now qualifying obviously is not as important as the race, but it is still very important, as I feel as though during the course of these oval races you want to be towards the front. Now that sounds really obvious and stupid, but I feel as though if you're in the middle of the pack, the chances of being yeeted into the realm are exponentially heightened, and therefore you don't really want to be there too much, especially during the middle of the race and towards the end of the race, where people start getting a little bit more aggressive with their movements. And so this qualifying session is very, very important. Now this first race, so we're jumping into the 4 o'clock session here. Now there are of course 5 races that you can do. I'm jumping into the first one here. This is for me a practice session really, because I haven't done any practice before this. I'm just jumping in and just hoping for the best and just trying to work out the strategy as I go along. And then, well, if I get a good result, then of course I'll just leave it there. But most likely that won't happen in the first race. We're going to take our knowledge that we've gained from this first race into the second race and see what we can do there. Okay, so in the slipstream, we're in a good position here, not too close to the back of the car in front. As we come up to the line, the fastest time at the moment at 43.0, you're looking for a low 43. We're going to cross the line with 43.1, only a tenth away from the top, but that's put us in 7th, and I'm at the front of the queue there, so I'm not going to bother setting any more lap times. And just have a look there, how close that is. I'm 1.5 tenths away from pole, but I'm 10th, and the guy in 14th is a quarter of a second down. Shows you just how precise you have to be. And if you lift off the power a tiny bit too late or a bit too early, or don't get on the power a bit too early, then you're going to lose time. Now the air traffic controllers around this area, around Hash Brown Raceway, do need to sort themselves out, because there's very nearly a huge accident there between the jet fighters and the jet liner. That could have ended horrifically. It really could have done. So they need to have a look at that. They could have a major aviation accident on their hands if they don't get on top of that poor lack of communication between the aeroplanes there. Very nearly a big crash. Okay, so settling into this race, and from what I've heard from people, okay, it's a fuel-saving race. This is the good thing about Twitter sometimes. You just say, I don't know the strategy, can people tell me? And then people will tell you. You get some help. And I need help, let me tell you. So, it's very much a fuel-saving race. You don't have to change tyres, as there's only really 2 corners. I mean, I know there's 3 on the map, but the second one is easily flat out. This is a crucial corner here, of course. Well, there's only 2 corners really. They're all crucial, I suppose. As you exit here onto the back straight, you're flat out for quite a long time here. I'm going to drop down a position. That's no real worry, other than maybe being in the middle of the pack. But for now, it's okay. So just trying to conserve fuel and just make sure you stay in the race. The thing about these races is slipstream. If you lose the slipstream, you've basically got no chance. You're just not going to stay in it. So as soon as you lose track of the group in front, then it's game over. So there's no point in fighting too much, so much so that you lose ground. Just stay in the fight and you should be okay. So coming up towards turn 1, lap number 3. You see just how close it is. Everyone's in a train. Just trying to get through here okay. It's really tricky, I think, because ideally I want the radar, but I also am changing fuel quite a lot. So you have to flick between fuel and radar quite a lot, and you need both, but you can't have both at the same time. So it can be a bit tricky sometimes being aware of who's next to you. You have to really keep tabs of that. And doing this oval race and doing these oval races really made me have an appreciation for oval racing, just how difficult and tricky it can be. And you can see there just a couple of moments there where we had a bit of contact, lots of cars around you have to really be aware of that, and it is difficult. I suppose a lot of oval racers have spotters. We're going to go in at the end of lap 11. Now I made the mistake there. I'm so used to changing tyres. I changed tyres, but you don't need to. You don't need to change tyres. You lose 2 seconds, and I didn't really refuel that much. I didn't really know how much you had to refuel, and as a result, you can see there, I've dropped off the group. I'm more than 2 seconds off, and that is pretty much courtesy of changing tyres. I made the mistake of changing tyres. I didn't need to. I've lost time, and I didn't refuel enough. And unfortunately, I'm going to lose loads of time. I have to go into lean setting 6 for the entirety of the race, so I'm just going to be miles off the pack. So this first race, as I said, it was a learning race, and well, hopefully we can learn from that, because that was stupid. I'm just going to sit in the pits and just look at this guy at the back here, this mechanic. He's wondering what was going on, running from right to left as I sit here for eternity. He takes another run. He's still confused. He still really is not sure what's going on. Another 10 years later, he takes another run. So at least he's getting a workout. I suppose someone's gaining out of all this. And at the end, just cross the line just to make sure we don't quit. But the good thing here, well, the main reason I finished was to get the replay. And what I can do with the replay is analyse what you should do. And it's always a good thing when you have someone in the race who finishes, or at least starts near the front, and is driving the same car. If they're driving the same car, you can see the strategy, you can see an ideal strategy, and see what works in this car and see what doesn't. So I'm going to follow the track of MX Steve here. So he comes in at the end of lap 10, and this is the crucial bit. He doesn't change tyres, so look at the mechanics not changing the tyres, and he's on 58% fuel. And what does he come out with? He comes out with 100%. So he's putting in a lot of fuel. And what that allows you to do is just really attack the second half of the race. You use about 8% fuel a lap if you just go full speed in fuel setting 1. But of course, if you save fuel, you can use quite a lot less than that. You can use maybe like 5%, maybe even less than that. But at the end of the race, you don't want to be fuel saving. You want to be flat out. By the end of the race, he was in a good position, so it shows you that the Lexus can fight at the front. It is possible for this car to perhaps win this race. A lot of it can be down to luck in the last few laps, but he does actually run out of fuel. So I'm not the only person to have done it. In fact, the Mercedes just next to him runs out of fuel as well. So it's the slowest drag race to the line, as luckily for him there's a big gap behind. So he stays in 7th. But that's a quick analysis of, obviously not at the end what you should do, but roughly what you should do in terms of strategy throughout the entire race. So have a look at this clip here. This is qualifying. I'm in a good position. I've got a 43.1, sitting in 10th place. Okay, we're faster through that first split. I'm in a good position here actually. I'm right up behind the BMW. So in the first race I felt like having a bit of a gap actually helped, but I think being this close is actually a good sort of distance. You don't want to be too close because otherwise you'll bump into the back of them. So coming through here, luckily the VW just pulls off to the left hand side, we don't have to worry about him. And really in a good place here just to fully slipstream up to the line, and every 10th matters. And we go a little bit faster, 43.17, my quickest. Still 3/10 off though, still 3/10 off fastest, and I'm not, I'm on the edge of the top 10. Okay, so on the outside here, not in the slipstream, I'm not going to be able to get a quicker lap here. So I'm going to back out, bail out of this lap, and indeed the session. So qualified in 12th this time. Not too bad, but given what I've learned in the first 2 races, you should be able to take that forward. It looks like the air traffic controllers have not learned their lesson, as we nearly have another big accident up ahead in the sky. Fortunately not though. Okay, so starting 12th at Hash Brown Raceway. I'm going to try to go properly here, and normally I only like to do 2 FIA races. You know, one starts at 4, the next one starts at 5:20, and over that time, you know, you're going to have to spend 2 hours doing that. So I only like to do 2 normally. But this time I'm going to go a little bit further. This is my 3rd one. So you're waiting quite a long time between each race. And so far we've spent maybe 3.5 hours. It's getting a little bit feisty here in the mid to rear pack. As I kind of explained earlier, when you're in the middle, things are more likely to go wrong. As we come through turn 1, lots of cars together. Look how close this is. Very, very close pack indeed. So I left a space on the outside there. Just wasn't quite sure if there was someone on my right. I try to get the slipstream. Go to the inside here. Going to get very close. Hopefully they give me space, and they do. So making up a couple of positions there. We're going to go past the Honda as well. Yes, we are. On the entry towards the final corner, just roll it in 5th gear, back on the power. Sort of a good barometer for that corner is the blue tarmac, the blue apron on the left hand side, and you can judge where to accelerate. Normally before halfway along that blue apron, you should be okay. You'll see on the next lap. 43.9, good lap. Looking up the inside of Nisman, not quite going to happen. Look how many cars there are here. This is where things can begin to go wrong. Coming out of here, they are going to go wrong. Unfortunately, a car gets pushed towards the outside, slows down, and out of all that, I'm the one to get fully spun around. And just to kick in the teeth, does have a big further kick in the teeth, get a penalty. And once that happens, it's game over. You know, you're not going to recover from that kind of position when you're not in the slipstream and also have that penalty to serve. You're just miles off. It's just not going to happen. So, I went into another session. We went again. And this time, we're going to really try and make sure that things do go well. As we come down the back straight, this is qualifying once again. As we're in a good position here, up behind the Mazda Atenza. So we're going to try and set a good lap. Coming through turn 2, flat out of course, in towards the final turn, right up behind him. The Atenza actually, I think, fairly good in a straight line. And he of course is in turn, in the slipstream with the 2 cars ahead, Lexus included. And then down the back straight, or down the main straight, should I say. And we're going to set a good lap time here of a 42.8. And that's the kind of area you want to be in. So, starting 3rd, a little bit further up. Now you might think that this race, that position isn't important on the grid. I feel as though just being towards the front, you can escape the troubles in the mid-pack, and you have the slight advantage of not having to travel as far in the race, and therefore your fuel saving doesn't have to be quite as good. Not much different, if we're honest, but still not quite as much. You're a good, let's say, compared from 3rd to 13th, you're a good couple of 100 metres ahead, and therefore you're going to save a tiny bit more fuel by not having to drive that distance at the start of the race. So lap 1, we're going to be quite aggressive, maybe try to get to the front, but for now, just settling into the race, just make sure nothing silly happens. The Mercedes here going quite slowly. Looks like he's clearly in fuel mode 6. A little bit of lift and coast here into the turn, so just off the power, let the car roll in, and then back on the power gently to save a little bit of fuel that way. And on the exit in fuel mode 6, momentarily taking the lead. But look how close that group is. And as soon as that group gets too close, well, actually I get a bump there, which actually helps. But you don't want to get sort of swarmed by the pack. So I'm in the lead, and if I have to, I'll use a power setting. But as it stands here, the Mercedes behind is quite content with bump drafting me, so I'm okay with that. I gain out of that, if anything. And we come out of the final turn onto the main straight. So in the lead. Okay, this is good. We're in a good place, obviously, and I know what I'm doing with the strategy, hopefully. And coming down towards turn 1, then just got to have that quick look behind just to make sure you know where that car is, if it's on your inside or not. You don't want to pinch a car to the apex or pinch a car to the wall on the outside on the exit. And this is the difficulty, just keeping track of exactly where everyone is at all times. And again, it makes me appreciate the skill in IndyCar, let's say like the Indy 500. It's just it's a race of absolute precision in so many respects. Just handling the car around the track without scrubbing any speed, but also fuel saving as accurately as you possibly can, overtaking, knowing when to overtake, knowing where to position your car, knowing which driver is going to do what, so you don't get put yourself in the wrong place, up against the wrong guy who's going to pin you against the wall or not see you coming, or whatever it is. There's so many things to think about, and it looks so simple, oval racing, but I've always argued that the simpler that something is, actually the harder it becomes as a competition, because if it's easy for everyone to drive around the track, then it becomes hard to win it, as it's very difficult to give yourself an edge. Now at the end of lap 13, we dive into the pit lane. Okay, not making the mistake of changing tyres, but this is where I do make a mistake. I underfuel the car. I should have gone a lot more. I should have fueled up a lot longer. I am going to come out in the lead here, so I'm a good 2-3 seconds in the lead, courtesy of fuel saving. Now, courtesy of underfueling. But I felt like, okay, for a few laps we can just save fuel here and let the pack sort of just regain, catch back up to me basically. So I felt like, okay, we'll just save fuel for a few laps, and then towards the end of the race we'll be able to sort of go a little bit further and just gun it a bit more. I just realised I made a mistake. This is my third race now, not my the other one. I said it was my third, but that was my second. This is my third race. So by this point we're a good 3.5 hours into this session, and we should know what we're doing. But this really does show you that ideally you need to do a practice race before you start doing the races, and that is a mistake I've been making, although I don't always have the time to jump in and do a practice race. It does take quite a bit of time and effort, but on this occasion I think it certainly would have helped. So I'm in the lead with 8.5 laps to go, or roughly around about that much, but just calculating the fuel at this point, and it's not going to be enough, because you need to attack the second half of the race. So the Mustangs are going to go around the outside, and as is the Mercedes. And this is where things get a little bit more difficult for me, because I don't have enough fuel to attack. I could go into fuel setting 1, as it looks like these guys are in, but I'm going to run out of fuel very quickly. In fact, at this point, just getting shoved wide, and this is just, again, a kick in the teeth, as I'm going to drop down the order, down to 15th. It's horrible to watch, it really is. But by the end of the race, you see I'm on 0%. I had to save the fuel. I had to go in fuel setting 6. A couple of guys fall by the wayside here who didn't save enough, and I almost gained a position on the line. But it's 16th, and it just shows you the fine margins in oval racing. The tiniest mistake, and the mistake here was not fueling enough, as I should have just put in a lot more, but just under the pressure at the moment I felt like, oh god, I need to do it now. I need to go out. I need to just leave the pit lane. Now I did a practice race, so I wanted to work out exactly how much fuel you use by driving flat out, get a really good idea for that. And in this race you see they're refueling a very good amount, nearly 90% fuel by the end of this one. So this is just a practice race, this isn't FIA, but it's always good just to jump in, because there's a good half hour, 45 minutes between each race at the moment. So there's a long time, there's a long lull in between each session. So it's a good idea to jump into some practice. Now look how close this finish was. Now luckily I was able to attack at the end of this one. The Nissan GTR was so quick in a straight line, and he almost overhauled me on the line, but I just managed to win in a decent time as well. So it kind of shows you that it can be done, although obviously the quality in a player-made lobby is not going to be quite as high as an FIA second split. But now we jump into our fourth session. Jesus Christ, I can't even talk. Here we are, our fourth session. 4 hours later. 4 hours later. And I still don't have a result to show for it. Look at this absolute mayhem. Like, this is not a good sign of things to come. This guy almost forced me into David Peril there. So I think getting a really bit feisty in qualifying. My God. Again, I qualified 12th. Air traffic controllers still not having learnt their lesson. But still, I suppose the pilots have learnt that by now, how to fly under that jet for the 4th time. Okay, so lap 2. We're going to be a bit more aggressive. We know the strategy. I know it by now. There's no excuse. I suppose the second race, we got wiped out, and unfortunate. Third race, well, I don't know what I was doing. I just panicked a little bit and just pressed leave the pit lane, and I didn't have enough fuel. That might have worked in a normal circuit, but around here you need all the fuel you can get so you can attack at the end. You can't really defend around an oval when you're on no fuel. It's just very, very difficult. So that was the mistake there. I know what to do now, don't worry. We're gonna fight properly this time. We're gonna get towards the front, be a bit more aggressive, and fight towards the front. Look at this, going to setting 1 in fact, at some points here. Just to nip underneath the Porsche, go up into 8th. So we've made some ground here, up 4 positions, just slowly making our way through the pack, as I just want to get a little bit closer to the front, as this is a fairly spread pack. And this is the thing, you're kind of just trying to judge the race. Every race is a little bit different. Sometimes the guys at the front will just set a relentless pace, and you kind of just have to go with it. Or if they're going very slowly, you just have to go with it as well. So it's almost not about lap time. Lap time isn't important. It's just about being with the pack and judging the race. So the fuel was okay. You see a lot of the guys there around about a similar amount. We're going to overfuel here. So the diamond there on about 80%. We're going to go all the way up to 100, baby. In fact, that was on about 70%. We're going to go all the way up to 100. The crucial thing here is that I'm still in the group. I'm still in with a shot. As long as I've got the slipstream, there's always a chance. And I'm in a really good position here. I'm in 8th with 100% fuel. Forget about the weight of the car. It's all about the power that I can now unleash in the second half of this race. I could pretty much just go flat out in power setting 1 from here to the end, and I won't run out, pretty much. So we're going to whip it forward a little bit here. There's a very big group up ahead. Look at that tasty meat, about to get overtaken. The leader is scrambling clear at this point, but second place is in this group. So I'm not sure what happened there, unless the leader is about to pit. He isn't. I'm going to go to the right hand side here. This is a problem. Should I have put myself in that position? Obviously not, as that guy just didn't quite see me coming down the outside. So, okay, we've still got a good amount of laps left, 9 laps. We can be patient here. No need to panic just at this point here. Mercedes just running the Porsche a little bit wide. We're going to tuck into the slipstream. We're in 7th, 2.6 seconds away from the lead, but only barely about a second away from second. So it really isn't too much of a gap. You see just how close this is as we enter the second half of this race. And coming through the final corner, pushing right up to the back of the Mercedes, up against the wall on the exit. Now coming down the main straight, beginning of lap number 15, just trying to play this one cautiously. I do have to make my way to the front, but I have to do it in such a way that it doesn't really endanger myself. There's a bit of lag there, and as we come through, Sinister Monk is just going to wipe out the Ferrari into the wall. And for the 4th race, we are not going to have a result. I've got damage, I'm spun around, and at this point here, I was completely raging. I was raging, and unfortunately, I made the silly mistake here. I pressed start, and then just as I come out of the menu, I just did it in the path of David Perel. So I inadvertently murdered him for the 2nd time. The first time being when I took his nose off at Butmore Park. But oh my god. The 4th race, so I spent nearly 5 hours and I've got nothing to show for it. That race was looking good. We waited for the 5th race. 5 hours, 20 minutes later of pure dedication. Oh my god. I do feel sorry for those who are trying to compete for the FIA World Tour, because 4 days a week of this is hard work. It really is. So we're going to go again. Qualified 5th. I'm in a good position here. Got into the 42s for the 2nd time for this race. And funny enough, it was Sinister Monk on pole position. The guy who kind of tripped up that last race. But unfortunately, this happened. Well, basically, I'm in the session. It's about to happen. But I tried to say good evening, everyone. The game basically has a brain fart and decides that everyone's going to leave. I think actually the case is that I leave. And, well, there you go. The whole session's over. So I've just wasted 6 hours of my life and got nothing to show for it, or 5.5 hours of my life gone. Luckily, I can bring you this video, and I do thank you and I applaud you for making it all the way to the end of this monstrosity. One of the downsides of Gran Turismo, when it all goes wrong. But then again, sometimes I like to show the bad side. The fact that, in life, not everything goes your way. But thankfully I've turned it around into this video, and hopefully you enjoyed it. But that is it from me. Let me know your thoughts. I shall see you next time. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.